Anyone but the human, swore the alien princess Part 1 Princess Valith. Sorin stood at the viewing window of the Galactic Concord station and watched the ships arrive from a dozen different worlds. She was the third daughter of Emperor Catharin Sorin, ruler of the Cathari Dominion, and this was her first diplomatic mission. She had trained for years for this moment. She would not fail her father. Her silver skin caught the light from distant stars. Her dark purple eyes moved slowly across the docking bays, studying each vessel. She recognized the curved ships of the Volanthi, the crystal cruisers of the Mirani, and the ugly gray boxes that humans called starships. She turned away from the human vessels with disgust. A Cathari guard approached her and bowed low. "Your Highness, the Security Council wishes to assign your protective detail. They have suggested a mixed team, including 2 human officers." Velith's eyes narrowed. "No. Your Highness, the humans have an excellent reputation for—" I said no. Her voice was cold and sharp. "I will not have those creatures anywhere near me. They are violent. They are unpredictable. My tutors taught me well about their history. War after war on their own world. They nearly destroyed themselves before they ever reached the stars." The guard kept his head down. "Then who would you prefer, Your Highness?" "The Volanthi. They are calm and professional. They do not start fights for entertainment like humans do." The guard nodded and backed away to deliver her decision. Velith returned to the window. She could see a human ship docking now. The S horizon, according to the display panel. She watched small figures moving behind the port windows. Humans, soft-skinned, short-lived, emotional creatures from a brutal world. Her people had studied them for decades and found nothing worth respecting. She did not understand why the Galactic Council allowed them a seat at all. Across the station, Daniel Carter stepped off the horizon and stretched his arms. He was 34 years old, a former pilot who now served as a diplomatic escort officer. He had short brown hair, tired eyes, and the kind of calm face that made people trust him without knowing why. Commander Lisa Monroe walked beside him. She was older, with gray streaks in her dark hair and a permanent frown that came from 20 years of service. "The Cathari princess rejected our security offer," Lisa said. "She specifically said she did not want humans." Daniel shrugged. "Her choice. We are just back up anyway. Does it not bother you? People fear what they do not understand. Maybe she will learn. Maybe she will not. Either way, I have a job to do." Lisa smiled slightly. "You are too calm for your own good, Carter." They walked toward the central hall, where the diplomatic ceremony would begin. Hundreds of beings from dozens of species filled the massive room. Lights floated overhead, changing colors to match the moods of the speakers. Music played softly from hidden sources. Daniel took his position near the back wall. He was not important enough to stand near the front. He watched the princess enter with her Volanthi guards. She moved with perfect grace, her silver gown flowing like water. She was beautiful in the cold way that statues were beautiful. She glanced in his direction once. Her eyes passed over him like he was furniture. Daniel did not react. He had seen that look before from many species. Humans were new to the galactic stage. They had to earn respect the hard way. The ceremony began. Speeches were made in languages Daniel did not understand. His translator implant worked hard to keep up. He found himself growing bored. These events were always the same. Words and promises that meant little until they were tested. Then everything changed. A flash of light exploded near the stage. The Volanthi guards moved to protect the princess, but a second blast hit them directly. They fell without a sound, their bodies smoking. Screams filled the hall. Beings ran in every direction. More explosions followed, tearing through the walls and ceiling. Daniel did not run. He moved forward instead, pushing through the panicked crowd. He saw the princess standing frozen near the stage, her eyes wide with shock. More guards rushed toward her, but another explosion threw them aside. Daniel reached her in seconds. He grabbed her arm and pulled. "Come with me," he said. She tried to pull away. "Release me. You are human, and you are about to die if you stay here." He did not wait for permission. He dragged her toward a service corridor as the ceiling collapsed behind them. They ran through narrow passages meant for maintenance workers. Alarms screamed from every speaker. The station was falling apart around them. Daniel found an emergency hatch and forced it open. A small shuttle waited on the other side, designed for quick evacuations. "Get in," he ordered. The princess hesitated. Smoke poured through the corridor behind her. She could hear more explosions in the distance. She climbed into the shuttle. Daniel jumped in after her and sealed the hatch. His hands moved quickly across the controls. The shuttle detached from the station and shot into open space. Through the rear window, they watched the Galactic Concord station burn. Pieces broke away and drifted into the darkness. Ships fled in all directions. Some did not make it. Valith sat in silence. Her hands were shaking. Everything had happened so fast. Her guards were dead. The station was destroyed. And now she was trapped in a tiny shuttle with a human. Daniel checked the systems and frowned. Life support is damaged. Navigation is offline. We have maybe 2 days of air if we are careful. Valith stared at him. "What do we do?" "We survive." He pointed to a planet on the scanner. "There. We can land and wait for rescue." "And if rescue does not come?" Daniel looked at her with steady eyes. "Then we figure something else out. That is what humans do." Valith turned away and stared out the window. She had sworn she would never accept help from a human. She had sworn it would be anyone but them. Now her life depended on one. End of part 1. Anyone but the human, swore the alien princess. Part 2. The shuttle fell through the atmosphere like a wounded bird. Daniel fought with the controls, trying to slow their descent. The princess gripped her seat and said nothing. Her silver skin had turned pale gray with fear. "Hold on," Daniel said. "This will be rough." The jungle below rushed up to meet them. Trees exploded as the shuttle crashed through them. Metal screamed. Glass shattered. Then everything stopped. Daniel opened his eyes. He was still alive. Blood ran down his forehead from a small cut, but nothing felt broken. He looked at the princess. She was unconscious but breathing. He unbuckled himself and checked her carefully. No serious injuries. She would wake up with bruises, but she would wake up. He opened the emergency hatch and stepped outside. The jungle surrounded them completely. Strange trees with blue leaves rose toward a green sky. Animals screamed in the distance. The air was thick and hot and smelled like rotting plants. Earth had been a death world. Daniel recognized the signs of another one. He returned to the shuttle and gathered supplies. Water containers, food packets, a medical kit, a small knife. He wished he had a weapon, but diplomatic missions did not allow them. The princess woke up an hour later. She sat up quickly and looked around with wild eyes. "Where are we?" "Unknown planet. The shuttle is dead. We need to find shelter before night comes." Valith stepped out of the shuttle and stared at the jungle. Nothing in her training had prepared her for this. She was a princess. She attended ceremonies and signed documents. She did not survive in the wilderness. "I can repair the shuttle," she said. "I studied engineering at the Royal Academy." Daniel looked at the smoking wreckage. "The main power core is destroyed. There is nothing to repair. I will try anyway." She walked to the shuttle and began pulling open access panels. Daniel watched her for a moment, then started building a shelter from fallen branches. He did not argue with her. She would learn on her own. 2 hours later, Valeth nearly killed them both. She had connected two power cells incorrectly. The explosion threw her backward and set the shuttle on fire. Daniel tackled her and rolled them both away as flames burst from the wreckage. They lay on the ground, breathing hard. The shuttle burned behind them. "I could have fixed it," Valeth whispered. "I almost had it. You did not." Daniel stood up and offered her his hand. "The shuttle is gone. Our supplies are gone. We start over." She stared at his hand for a long moment. Then she took it. They walked into the jungle as the sun began to set. Daniel moved carefully, watching for danger. Valeth followed close behind him, trying to copy his movements. "How do you know where to go?" she asked. "I do not. I am looking for water. All life needs water. We find water, we find everything else. On my world, servants bring water to us." Daniel smiled slightly. "Not here. They found a stream before darkness fell completely." Daniel tested the water with a small device from his pocket. "Safe to drink." He showed her how to collect it in leaves and drink slowly. "Why do you know these things?" Valeth asked. "You are a pilot, not a soldier. I am human. We grew up on a world that tried to kill us every day. We had to learn to survive before we learned anything else. My tutor said Earth was a terrible place. It was. Predators hunted us. Diseases attacked us. The weather changed without warning. We had no claws, no fangs, no armor. We had only our minds and our stubbornness." Valeth looked at him differently now. Not with respect exactly, but with curiosity. Night felt like a heavy blanket. The jungle came alive with sounds. Screams and howls echoed through the darkness. Things moved between the trees, just out of sight. Daniel built a small fire using friction and dry grass. Valeth with wide eyes. "How did you do that?" "Practice. My grandfather taught me when I was young. Kitajirari did not pass such knowledge to children. We consider survival training beneath the royal class." Daniel added more sticks to the fire. "Then your royal class would die in places like this." She did not argue. She could not. Something screamed in the jungle, closer than before. Daniel stood up slowly and picked up a thick branch. "Stay behind me," he said. The creature burst from the trees without warning. It was massive, all teeth and claws and rage. It looked like a nightmare given flesh. Daniel moved faster than Valeth thought possible. He dodged the first strike and jammed his branch into the creature's eye. It screamed and swung wildly. One claw caught his arm, tearing through cloth and skin. Blood sprayed across the ground, but Daniel did not stop. He grabbed a burning stick from the fire and thrust it into the creature's face. The beast howled and stumbled backward. He hit it again and again until it turned and fled into the darkness. Daniel fell to his knees. His arm hung uselessly at his side. Blood poured from the wound. Valeth rushed to him without thinking. She tore strips from her gown and wrapped them around his arm, pressing hard to stop the bleeding. "Why did you do that?" she demanded. "You could have run. You should have run." Daniel looked up at her with tired eyes. "And leave you alone? What kind of person would do that?" She had no answer. Her people would have run. Her guards would have saved themselves first. That was simply how the universe worked. But not for humans, it seemed. She worked through the night to keep him alive. She changed his bandages. She kept the fire burning. She watched the darkness for more predators. And somewhere in those long hours, something changed inside her. End of part 2. Anyone but the human. Swore the Alien Princess Part 3. 3 days passed on the jungle planet. Daniel recovered slowly. The wound on his arm was healing, but he was still weak. Valeth had become his nurse, his guard, and his student all at once. She learned to find food. She learned to purify water. She learned to watch the jungle for signs of danger. Each lesson came from Daniel, spoken in simple words between long rests. "You are a good teacher," she told him on the third morning. "You are a fast learner. Most people panic in situations like this. You adapted. I had no choice." Daniel smiled weakly. "There is always a choice. You chose to survive. That matters." They had built a better shelter near the stream. It was not comfortable, but it kept the rain out and the predators away. Valeth had even learned to keep the fire burning. Without help, she was becoming someone new. She could feel it happening, like old skin falling away. On the third afternoon, Daniel sat up suddenly. His eyes focused on something in the distance. "Do you hear that?" he asked. Valeth listened. A faint hum filled the air, growing louder. "A ship. Rescue," she said, starting to stand. Daniel grabbed her arm. "Wait, we do not know who it is. It must be my father's fleet. He would send ships to find me. Maybe, or maybe it is whoever tried to kill you at the station." Valeth stopped. She had not considered that. In her mind, the attack had been random. Terrorists or criminals. But Daniel was right. Someone had specifically targeted her. They moved deeper into the jungle and watched from hiding as a ship landed near their old shuttle wreck. Soldiers climbed out, wearing Kethari military armor. "See?" Valeth said. "My people. We can go to them." Daniel put his hand on her shoulder. "Wait, listen." One of the soldiers activated a communication device. A voice came through, clear and sharp. "Have you found the princess?" "Not yet, Lord Dreth. The shuttle is destroyed, but there are signs of survival. Someone built a fire here recently. Find her and kill her. Make sure the human dies as well. We need his body to blame for her death." Valeth felt her blood turn cold. Lord Dreth, her father's most trusted advisor. The man who had helped raise her. The man who had taught her to hate humans. "No," she whispered. "That cannot be true." Daniel pulled her back as the soldiers spread out to search. They retreated silently through the jungle, putting distance between themselves and the landing site. When they were safe, Valeth collapsed against a tree. Her hands were shaking. "He betrayed us," she said. "Dreth betrayed my entire family. He destroyed the station. He killed hundreds of people. And he did it to start a war with humans." Daniel sat beside her. "I know this is hard to accept. You do not understand. Everything I believed was a lie. Dreth taught me that humans were dangerous. He filled my head with stories of human violence and treachery. But he was the monster. He was always the monster." Tears ran down her silver cheeks. Daniel said nothing. He simply sat with her and let her grieve for the world she thought she knew. After a long time, Valeth wiped her eyes and stood up. Her face had changed. The softness was gone, replaced by cold determination. "I need to warn my father," she said. "If Dreth succeeds, there will be war. Millions will die. My people will fight humanity, and both sides will suffer. How do we reach your father? I do not know. Our communicator was destroyed with the shuttle. Unless..." She paused, thinking. There may be another way. Old Kethari maps showed a structure on this planet. An alien ruin from a civilization long dead. If it has any working technology, we might be able to send a message. Daniel nodded. "Then we find it." "Which direction?" "East, toward the mountains." They gathered what supplies they could carry and started walking. The jungle grew thicker as they moved away from the stream. Insects buzzed around them. Strange birds screamed in the trees above. Daniel moved slowly, still weak from his injury. Valeth stayed close, supporting him when he stumbled. "Why do you keep helping me?" she asked. "I treated you terribly. I said cruel things about your people. I refused your protection because I thought humans were beneath me. Daniel kept walking. Do you still think that? No, I was wrong. I was so wrong. Then that is enough. Humans do not hold grudges against people who learn and change. We have made too many mistakes ourselves to judge others for theirs. Valeth shook her head. My people would not be so forgiving. Maybe that is why you need humans as friends instead of enemies. They walked in silence after that. The mountains grew larger on the horizon. Somewhere behind them, Dreth soldiers were still hunting Dot as the sun set. They found a cave and made camp inside. No fire tonight. The smoke would give away their position. Valeth sat in the darkness, listening to Daniel's breathing as he slept. She thought about everything that had happened. She thought about who she had been and who she was becoming. She made a promise to herself in that cave. She would expose Dreth. She would save her people from a war built on lies. And she would do it with a human at her side. Anyone but the human she had once sworn. Now the human was the only one she trusted in the entire universe. End of part 3. Anyone but the human? Swore the Alien Princess Part 4. They reached the mountains on the 5th day. Daniel's strength had returned, though his arm still ached when he moved it too quickly. Valeth had grown stronger too, not just in body but in spirit. She no longer walked like a princess waiting to be served. She walked like a survivor. The structure appeared between two peaks, half buried in rock and jungle growth. It was old beyond imagining. The stone was black and smooth, covered in symbols that neither of them could read. This is not Cathari, Valeth said. It is too old. Whatever species built this died long before my people reached the stars. Daniel studied the entrance. There may still be power inside. Old technology sometimes lasts forever. They entered carefully. The air inside was cool and stale. Dust covered everything. Their footsteps echoed through empty halls. Then Daniel stopped. He was staring at a wall covered in markings. These are not alien, he said quietly. These are human. Valeth moved closer. He was right. Among the ancient symbols, someone had scratched words in a human language. Names, dates, messages. Humans were here? She asked. A long time ago. Look at the dates. 60 years passed. This must have been an early exploration mission. Before first contact with the Cathari, they followed the human markings deeper into the structure. The trail led to a large chamber filled with equipment. Some of it was alien, ancient, and dead. But some of it was human. A portable communication array. Data storage units. Personal logs. Daniel activated one of the logs. A hologram appeared, flickering with age. A woman in an old Earth uniform spoke to them from across decades. Day 47. We found survivors on the northern continent. Cathari. Their colony ship crashed here years ago. Disease is spreading through their population. We have medicine that can help. Captain says we should not interfere. First contact protocols. But I cannot watch children die when we can save them. I am going against orders. If anyone finds this log, know that we did the right thing. The hologram ended. Another began. Day 62. The medicine worked. The Cathari colony is recovering. They call us the Silver Healers because of our suits. They think we are spirits sent by their gods. We cannot tell them the truth. We are not supposed to be here. But we saved 200 lives today. That matters more than any protocol. Valeth stood frozen. Her mouth hung open. She could not speak. We saved them, Daniel said. Humans saved a Cathari colony 60 years ago. They risked everything to help your people. I never knew. This history does not exist in our records. Someone erased it. Someone wanted your people to fear us. Valeth thought of Dreth. He had been her father's advisor for decades. long enough to bury secrets, long enough to shape the future. They searched the chamber and found the communication array still had power. Daniel began working on it, connecting wires and adjusting frequencies. "I can send the message," he said, "but it will take time. And dressed soldiers are getting closer. I have seen their tracks. How long do you need?" "An hour. Maybe more." Valeth picked up an old human weapon from the floor. It was a simple projectile gun, nothing like the energy weapons of her people. But it still worked. She checked the ammunition. "I will give you time," she said. Daniel looked at her. "You do not have to do this. You are a princess, not a soldier. I was a princess. Now I am something else." She met his eyes. "You protected me when I gave you no reason to. You nearly died for me. Now it is my turn." She walked to the entrance and took a position behind fallen stones. The jungle stretched out before her. Somewhere in those trees, soldiers were hunting them. Daniel worked faster. The first soldier appeared 20 minutes later. Valeth fired without hesitation. The shot struck true. The soldier fell. Others shouted and took cover. More came. Valeth fired again and again. She was not trained for combat, but fear and determination made up for skill. Every time a soldier showed himself, she pulled the trigger, but there were too many. They circled around, finding new angles. Energy blasts struck the stones around her. She was running out of ammunition. "Daniel," she shouted. "How much longer?" "Almost there." "One more minute." A soldier rushed her position. She fired her last shot and missed. He raised his weapon. Daniel appeared from nowhere. He tackled the soldier, and they rolled across the ground, fighting for the weapon. Another soldier aimed at them both. Valeth threw herself at him, knocking the weapon aside. They struggled together until she found a stone and struck him hard. But more soldiers poured from the jungle. Too many to fight. Daniel was grabbed and forced to his knees. Valeth was seized a moment later. They knelt side by side as the commander approached. "Lord Dreth will be pleased," the commander said. "The princes and the human, together. This will make a perfect story for the news feeds. The savage human kidnapped the princess and murdered her before we could save her." He raised his weapon and aimed at Daniel's head. "Any last words, human?" Daniel looked at Valeth. He smiled despite everything. "Tell them the truth," he said. "No matter what happens to me. Tell them." The commander laughed. "She will be dead before she can tell anyone anything." He began to squeeze the trigger. End of part 4. Anyone but the human. Swore the Alien Princess Part 5. The sky exploded with light before the commander could fire. Massive ships broke through the clouds, their hulls gleaming with the royal symbols of the Cathari Empire. Dozens of dropships fell toward the jungle, carrying soldiers in golden armor. The Emperor's personal guard. The commander looked up in shock. His soldiers froze in confusion. Daniel's message had gone through. A single ship landed near the ancient structure. The doors opened and Emperor Ketharan Sarin stepped out. He was tall and powerful, with silver skin darker than his daughter's and eyes that held centuries of wisdom. Behind him walked Lord Dreth, smiling calmly as if nothing was wrong. "Father," Valeth shouted. "Dreth is a traitor. He planned the attack on the station. He wanted to start a war with humanity." Dreth laughed softly. "Your Majesty, the princess has clearly been traumatized. The human has poisoned her mind. Look at her, dressed in rags, defending the creature that kidnapped her." The Emperor studied his daughter. Then he looked at Daniel. "Is this true, human? Did you kidnap my daughter?" Daniel met the Emperor's gaze without fear. "No, Your Majesty. I saved her life. And she saved mine. The message she sent contains proof of everything. Communication records. Financial transfers. Dreth's own words ordering her death. Dreth's smile faded slightly. Lies, human lies. Then, you will not mind if we review the transmission, the Emperor said. His voice was cold. He raised his hand. A hologram appeared in the air between them. Dreth's voice played clearly. Find her and kill her. Make sure the human dies as well. We need his body to blame for her death. The Emperor turned to face Dreth. His eyes burned with rage. You would murder my daughter. You would start a war that would kill millions. For what purpose? Dreth's calm mask shattered. He grabbed a weapon from a nearby soldier and aimed it at the Emperor. For the future of our people. Humans are dangerous. They spread across the galaxy like a disease. If we do not destroy them now, they will destroy us. You are insane, Velith said. I am the only one who sees the truth. Dreth's hand trembled on the weapon. Humans pretend to be peaceful, but look at their history. War after war. Violence in their blood. I have spent decades preparing our people to fight them. I will not let one foolish princess ruin everything. He aimed at Velith and fired. Daniel moved without thinking. He threw himself in front of her, taking the blast in his chest. He fell hard and did not move. The Emperor's guards seized Dreth before he could fire again. They forced him to his knees and took his weapon. Velith dropped beside Daniel. Blood spread across his shirt. His eyes were closed. His breathing was shallow and weak. No, she whispered. No. You cannot die. Not like this. Not for me. She pressed her hands against his wound, trying to stop the bleeding. Tears fell from her eyes onto his face. Father, please. Save him. I will do anything. The Emperor watched his daughter cry over a human. He saw something he had never seen before. Love, perhaps? Or simply the bond between two people who had saved each other's lives. He made a decision. Bring human medical technology from their ship, he ordered. Quickly. Soldiers ran to obey. Minutes later, a human medical officer arrived with equipment that Cathari doctors did not understand. She worked on Daniel for an hour, while Velith refused to leave his side. Finally, the medical officer looked up. He will live. The wound was serious, but he is strong. Humans are stubborn that way. Velith laughed through her tears. Yes, they are. 3 days later, Daniel woke up aboard the Cathari flagship. Velith sat beside his bed, watching him. You are awake, she said softly. I feel like I was hit by a ship. You were hit by an energy blast. You almost died. Daniel looked around the room. It was beautiful, decorated in Cathari style with flowing silks and soft lights. Where are we? My father's flagship. We are traveling to the Cathari homeworld. He wishes to speak with you when you are strong enough. Daniel tried to sit up and immediately regretted it. Pain shot through his chest. Easy, Velith said. You need more rest. What happened to Dreth? He will stand trial for treason. His conspiracy has been exposed. The evidence you found in that ancient structure, the records of humans saving our colony, it is being shared with our entire empire. Everything Dreth taught us about humanity was a lie. Daniel closed his eyes. Good. Then maybe there will not be a war. There will not be. My father has proposed an alliance instead. A new treaty between the Cathari Dominion and Earth. Velith paused. He asked me to choose a human liaison. Someone to represent your people at our court. Daniel opened his eyes. Who did you choose? Velith smiled. It was the first real smile he had ever seen from her. I once swore it would be anyone but the human. I spent my whole life believing your kind was dangerous and cruel. But a human risked his life to save me. A human protected me without asking for anything in return. A human showed me that everything I believed was wrong. She took his hand gently. It can only ever be you, Daniel Carter. There is no one else I trust more. Daniel smiled back. I thought princesses did not hold hands with primitive humans. This princess does what she wants. 1 week later, they stood together in the great hall of the Kethari Palace. Thousands watched as the emperor announced the new alliance between their peoples. It was the beginning of something neither species had imagined possible. When the ceremony ended, Valeth and Daniel walked to a balcony overlooking the capital city. Lights sparkled in every direction. Ships flew between towers that touched the clouds. It is beautiful, Daniel said. It is home. Valeth looked at him. And now it is your home too, if you want it to be. Daniel watched the lights for a long moment. He thought about everything that had happened. The attack, the crash, the jungle, the fight for survival that had changed them both. I think I would like that, he said. Valeth moved closer to him. My tutors will be horrified. The prince is keeping company with a human. Is that a problem? She laughed. Not anymore. I have learned that humans are worth keeping close, especially the stubborn ones who refuse to die. They stood together as the night deepened around them. Two people from different worlds, brought together by disaster and bound by something stronger. Anyone but the human. She had once sworn. Now she could not imagine her life without him. End of Part 5. The end.